Then if we're ready, we'll call the meeting of the Charter Revision Commission, April 8th, 2021 to order. Ms. Waits, if you would please call the roll and record who is present of the commission.
Yes, sir. Ms. Behan.
Present.
Mr. Brandstetter.
Present.
Mr. Harden.
Here.
Ms. Jones.
Present.
Ms. McLaughlin.
Present.
Mr. Murphy.
Present.
Mr. Wilson.
Present.
We have all 7 members present. Chair.
Thank all of y'all for being willing to join and to do this electronically. As you know, Governor Lee has put out an executive order that allows us to meet electronically, and we will need a motion along the lines of this. I would ask someone to make a motion that, as required by Governor Lee's Executive Order 16, as extended by Orders 34, 51, 60, 65, 71, and 78. Would someone please make a motion that today's meeting of the Charter Revision Commission constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan government, and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 pandemic?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Okay.
Second.
Seconded. We will need to do a roll call vote. Is that correct, Ms. Waits? Isn't that how we have to do it since it's electronic?
Yes, sir. That's right. Ms. Behan.
Aye.
Mr. Brandstetter.
Aye.
Mr. Harden.
Aye.
Ms. Jones.
Aye.
Ms. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Mr. Murphy.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
7 in favor, against.
Good, then, thank you. That motion passes unanimously, so we can conduct business electronically. The next thing on our agenda, you should have received a copy or a draft of the September 11, 2020 meeting minutes. That was the last time we met. There is one correction on the date on page 1, where it references considering the minutes of the last meeting before that. And Elizabeth, what was the date of that prior meeting?
It's April 12th, 2019.
Yes. So with the only correction that would need to be made is in the third paragraph where we were considering the prior minutes. That would be April of 2019 minutes. So if everyone has had a chance to review the minutes, we'll entertain a motion or any notations concerning corrections or additions.
So move.
Okay, then can you call the roll again, please, Ms. Waits?
Yes, sir. Ms. Behan.
Aye.
Mr. Branstad.
Aye.
Mr. Harden.
Aye.
Ms. Jones.
Aye.
Ms. McLaughlin.
Aye.
Mr. Murphy.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
Thank you so much. 7 in favor, none against.
Okay, good. So then those minutes with that one change from the draft that was provided will be approved unanimously. The next thing we need to provide the notice of appeal rights is that something that you will do, Ms. Waits, or is that a Tom Cross question? Who will go through the appeal rights?
I'll be happy to announce that any parties that are before this board who wish to appeal a decision made by the board may file an appeal by filing a writ of certiorari in Chancery Court within 60 days.
Okay, good. Hopefully no one's going to feel that they are aggrieved by any action that we take. And thank you for doing that. Okay, we are down now to the reason why we're meeting, which is the public hearing and deliberation of the proposed charter amendments that have been proposed by Council Member Mendez. It's RS 2021-837. I think at this time we'll open the public hearing, and if I may, Councilman Mendez, I'm going to ask you to just sort of walk the commission and anyone who is listening in a brief description of your proposed charter amendments, and why you think it's important that the commission vote to recommend approval of the proposal.
Thanks, Chair Branstetter. Can you hear me?
We can. Mhm.
All right, great. Thank you. I may, if there are questions, I may enlist the help of Council Director Cooper, who helped me draft this. I say help me draft it. Maybe I helped him draft it, but either way, I may rely on him for help. We had a conversation like this back in September when the last petition was presented to be on a ballot. And the fundamental problem with the last version of the fall was that it made a sort of unmitigated mess of the charter and created conflicting provisions and had, added second ways to do things and had undefined terms and was generally very confusing. And those shortcuts were what ultimately caused the Chancery Court to keep it off the ballot. This time, I would say that the drafter of the citizen petition learned some lessons from losing the lawsuit, but it's still, this version does still create confusion. It's got multiple undefined terms. It would create conflicting provisions. It would create conflicts of state law. And much like the charter amendment that I proposed back in the fall that the council approved, you all recommended to go on the ballot, what I've got before the council now does the same thing. It seeks to define some terms that are undefined, try to make sure that we resolve any conflicts in favor of making sure we follow state law, and basically give voters a chance to have another choice on the ballot, and the choice would in each instance be to keep the language as close as possible to what the charter is now. And I'm happy to go through the individual provisions, but it gets pretty deep into legalese, and I'm sure you guys have looked through them beforehand. But if you want me to, I can go through provision by provision.
I don't think that's necessary unless there are specific questions. Mr. Cooper, is there anything you would like to, John Cooper, anything you would like to add in reference to this charter amendment?
No, I don't have anything unless there are questions. I'm happy to help explain anything if people have questions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then Ms. Behan.
Yes, I was wondering about some of the language related to identifying the leagues, the professional sports leagues. And I understand from Mr. Cooper that this relates to those existing. But John, we talked briefly earlier, could you provide us with some more information about other leagues like the WNBA, et cetera?
Yes, ma'am. So the charter amendment Councilmember Mendez is proposing adds a definition of professional sports team, which is an undefined term in the petition charter amendment. And the definition that is provided basically says it means any team that is affiliated with one of these leagues and starts in Nashville or comes to Nashville after the effective date of the provision. The fact that other leagues are not named means that they wouldn't be included in the prohibitions or restrictions in the charter at all. So if, for example, a WNBA team decided to come to Nashville, the fact that they are not listed in that definition would not mean that they were then subject to the restrictions. They would just be exempt from the provisions.
So it's just.
Is there any recommendation that needs to be made because of that?
I think it actually provides more protections for those other leagues that aren't named, because then they don't fall within that definition, so the charter wouldn't apply to them at all.
Chair, if I may add in on that.
Yes, go ahead.
So I agree with Mr. Cooper, not listing for example, WNBA should be a help to them in that the restrictions added by Mr. Jim Roberts' petition, item 6, would not apply at all to WNBA. And I'll go ahead and acknowledge that when I put Major League Baseball in there, I was intending to make it so if the Jim Roberts restrictions are voted in by the voters, that Major League Baseball would be subject to the restrictions that is added in the citizen petition. But other leagues, whether it's professional women's basketball, professional lacrosse, professional whatever sport gets invented in the future, would not be subject to the citizen petition restrictions at all. I think that's right, Mr. Cooper?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Does that address your concern, Ms. Behan?
Yes, it does.
Do any other members of the commission have questions of either Mr. Cooper or Mr. Mendez?
No.
Hey, Dewey, I've got a question. I just, it's probably for Bob or John, whichever one wants to ask. And when we're amending section 305, where it says in the event of a conflict between this and Article 18, what are we trying to do there? What fix is that trying to fix?
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
The section that's being amended there, the 305, is kind of the council's general powers to enact legislation.
Right.
And so the provision that is trying to address is the limitation on the transfer of property that would trigger a referendum.
Okay, that makes sense. I didn't have enough time to look in depth to figure out which provision was trying to fix what. Most of them were pretty obvious, but I didn't understand that one clearly. Okay, thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, and just to explain it a little bit further, it's item 5 in the citizen petition, talks about adding a section 18.18. It would ostensibly conflict with the powers of the council under 3.05. And so the idea is to just expressly resolve the conflict in favor of the powers in 3.05 rather than the restrictions in the new 18.18.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, then we will continue with the public hearing. I think was there someone who had called in who wished to address the commission? Mr. Buchanan, did we have someone that had called? Mr. Buchanan, your microphone's muted.
We have no callers at the moment.
Okay. Then does anyone else, Mr. Jameson or Bob Cooper, Tom Cross, anyone else wish to address or opine on this proposed charter amendment from Mr. Mendez?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Jones.
Yes, I have a question. I note that several of the amendments are to provisions that either don't exist or that currently, or that are in place and are expected to be removed under the proposed action. What happens if the proposed action does not pass and this amendment is on the charter? It's on the, is passed. One does not and this one does. What occurs with respect to the provision?
Mr. Branstetter, should I
Yes.
go? So we tried pretty hard to make it so the council amendment could be standalone if it passed and the citizen petition did not. I'm happy to look at specific provisions. I think we made it so, except for maybe one sentence in here that I can't remember which one it was, that all of them should be able to be standalone if mine passed and the other one didn't. But I'm certainly eager to hear about places where people, where the commissioners feel that we might not have been successful in that.
So yes, I saw specific provisions and I had marked them, but I may have lost my edits, but let me see if I can recall those for you. For instance, where we added the definition of a benefit plan, that term does not currently exist and would not exist if the action does not pass.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Go ahead.
Same for professional sports. I think that's not mentioned anyplace else in the charter. And then there was a provision, I think it was 503. That basically added a provision that mirrored what would immediately follow it, assuming that was removed. So if one did not pass and the other did, you basically have duplicative provisions.
Right. So I can talk about all three of those. The first two with the definitions, you're right that if the citizen petition failed and the charter mine got passed, those two definitions would be inserted and they would be terms that wouldn't have been used. And so it would be a little nonsensical. And frankly, the thought is we've got a lawyer who's intent on junking up the charter with these multiple petitions. And fundamentally, if he's going to keep trying to junk up the charter, I feel like on some level, I can't be a purist on completely avoiding junk myself. And so by definitions that don't define anything, my sense was that doesn't do any harm. It's a head scratcher, 10 years from now when people don't remember how those terms got in there, but they don't do any harm. And therefore I decided I could live with that. On the 15.06 is what you're talking about, where if mine passed and then his didn't, you would end up having two sections in a row that said basically, or not basically, that said the same thing. And that's another instance where I felt like I just trying to play defense for the citizens against somebody who's intent on junking up the charter. That's another place where having duplicate language is going to be a head scratcher, but it does no harm. So you're right that if theirs failed and this passed, we would have two definitions that don't define anything, and we'd have two sections in a row that read identically. But at least the thought is that doesn't do any harm. I don't know whether Mr. Cooper and I talked about that directly. He might have a different perspective or additional perspective on that also.
No, Councilman, that's exactly what we talked about. It was, it kind of felt like the door to charter junk had been opened, and in an effort to address that, it was necessary to potentially include some junk as well. But I agree that it does not do any harm from a legal standpoint to the charter. It just, makes it ugly.
And the one last point I would add on this is if any of this stuff gets on the ballot and passes, whether it's the council's or the citizen-led one, y'all might come to regret in the next couple of years being the Charter Revision Commission, because you might have to do some substantive rewriting or propose some substantive rewriting they try to de-junk the thing.
Can I ask a question in the dejunking mode? On the one that's 15.06, where you're just adding language to try to replace or to, I guess, if you provided in the directory paragraph that the existing language was deleted and replaced with the following, then it wouldn't be in there twice. It'd just be in there once. I don't know if that would help.
Well,
And I'm not looking at it, so I don't know if that would really work. But I'm just thinking if it's in there twice, if you in this amendment said you're going to replace the existing language with this language, then whatever the existing language is, it would go away and you would just have this new language. That's just a thought, and I'm not sure if it works, but it's just a suggestion.
the problem there is if both pass, then we have conflicting language in the same section from the two petitions. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just.
It's, believe me, I mean, the
But aren't you going to have that, Bob, anyway? Because
the only difference is that my language in the part that I'm inserting you'd have conflicting, like very conflicting sections, one after another. But one of them would say, in the event of conflict between version 1 and version 2, version 1 prevails. I mean, believe me, it's not elegant.
So is 15.06, are they amending 07 and 08? Is that what is going on?
Right.
Okay. Okay.
And if I could interject, I understand the concern about having duplicative language in the charter, but I think the concern is that if the citizen petition passes the way that it talks in terms of the people who voted in the last election, the numbers that it takes to recall a particular office holder is very small. I went and looked, after talking with Mr. Mendez about this, I went and looked at a couple of the most recent council races, and in one of the council districts where there were only a total of 1,800 votes cast, if the citizen petition passes with 183 signatures, you could recall someone who under their petition would not be eligible to be on the ballot. They could do a write-in campaign. And assuming you had a small number, then all you'd have to happen is the next time whoever that person was, then you go out and get 200 signatures, and you could go back and forth and just create a huge mess. So this may be one of those circumstances where it's not ideal, but it provides a level of protection that frankly we hope's not needed. Okay, anyone else have questions of the sponsor or the council director? And I'll ask Mr. Buchanan, I'm assuming no one has called in.
Correct.
Okay, then at this time, I think it would be, unless someone else has additional thoughts or questions, we'll declare the public hearing closed, and we will then need to deliberate and vote on the charter amendment. And I guess this may be a Tom Cross question. Do we vote on it just as amended, or do we vote on the original and then vote on the amendment? What's the thought as to how procedurally we need to do it so we're correct?
I'm not certain that I understood your question. If there's an amendment pending, you need to address that first.
Okay, so we would vote on the amendment first, and then if that's accepted, then we would vote on the petition or the amendment, the charter resolution as amended. Is that the process?
Yes.
Okay. Good. Thank you very much. I wasn't sure exactly how procedurally that needed to go. Okay, then, unless there's further discussion amongst the commission members, we'd entertain a motion. And as we just heard, we first need to vote on the amendment, whether we would agree with the amendment to the resolution, and then we would vote on the resolution as so amended. Did I say that right, Tom?
Yes, sir.
Good. Thank you. I appreciate your help. So we need to get a motion out there just so we can discuss.
I'll move to approve the amendment to the resolution.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve the amendment to RS 2021-837. Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Second.
Okay, I think I heard Mr. Harden first. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, then Ms. Waits, if you would call the roll, I would appreciate it.
Ms. Behan,
Aye.
Mr. Branstetter,
Aye.
Mr. Harden,
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. McLaughlin,
Aye.
Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
7 in favor, none against.
Okay, good. So the vote on the motion to approve the amendment to the resolution has passed. So now we are on the main resolution as so amended. So if we could get a motion to approve resolution RS 2021-837 as amended, then we can go forward.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. So we've got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, was that you, Ms. Behan?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so motion has been made by Ms. Jones, seconded by Ms. Behan. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, then Ms. Waits, if you would call the roll.
Ms. Behan,
Yes.
Mr. Branstetter,
Aye.
Mr. Harden,
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. McLaughlin,
Aye.
Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
7 in favor, none against.
Okay, good. Then we have done the business that we needed to transact. Ms. Waits, will you convey to the chairman of the Charter Revision Commission chairman of the Charter Committee of the Council, Mr. Syracuse, what action that the Charter Revision Commission has taken?
Yes, sir. I'll be happy to draft a letter. And I actually saw him in the meeting earlier. He may not have been able to stay till now. So we'll draft a letter to the committee.
Okay, good. Is there any other business to come before the commission? If not, I want to thank, this is great. The last few meetings we've had 100% attendance, and I really appreciate y'all's willingness to participate and do this. And it's good to see everybody. Hope to see everybody in person sooner than later. Hopefully this is the last meeting we'll have by video. And unless there is some other business we need to transact, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Okay, got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, all those I guess we have to call the roll. I'm sorry, I could have just adjourned the meeting. So I guess
Like
we
the
call the
council
roll.
does and voice vote and then have Elizabeth read all our names, but
I wouldn't want to get ahead of John.
I was
doing
gonna say,
that.
maybe we
He's
can
way
have
better
John
at it.
pitch hit for you on that, since he's an expert in
Yeah. It's a musical hit. Ms. Behan,
Aye.
Mr. Branstetter,
Aye.
Mr. Harden,
Aye.
Ms. Jones,
Aye.
Ms. McLaughlin,
Aye.
Mr. Murphy, Mr. Wilson.
Aye.
7 in favor, Chair.
Good, thank you. So we've acted unanimously throughout the entire meeting. Well, again, I appreciate it, and this will conclude the April 8th, 2021 meeting of the Metropolitan Charter Revision Commission. I appreciate everyone's attendance and interest. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
Mr. Chairman.
See y'all
Thank you.
soon. Bye.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.